Hello, and thank you for joining me. Today we have the Kansept CRU, and I went ahead and took this out of the box and spent a few days with it, and found out that this thing it's a very simple design, yet really smooth, but more on that in just a bit. Let's go over the materials quickly. We have a titanium constructed knife. It is a frame lock with a nice steel insert. The titanium is bead blasted, so you guys can see here, very well done. As for the inlays, we have blue camo fat carbon, which is just a beautiful material. You can never go wrong with fat carbon, and you do end up getting it on both sides of the knife. Typically an inlay is just on the show side, but Kansept went ahead and did it on both sides here. They also gave you a blue anodized backspacer, which is also bead blasted. But I love that this blue backspacer complements the blue fat carbon, and I think it's a very tasteful look or touch. You do have a beautifully milled titanium pocket clip, which is also bead blasted. As far as the hardware goes, we have TA all the way around, except for the steel insert. You do have a T6, which is a little interesting because it looks like there's enough room here to put a T8, but it is pretty consistent all the way around, which I really like, and I hope Kansept continues to do this in the future. We do have a flipper tab for deployment with beautiful jimping. We do have a front or top flipper, which also has a really good jimping, but more on that in just a moment. And as for the blade, we have a Damascus sheep's foot blade here, and love their pattern. This is the rose pattern Damascus. They do have another version of Damascus that they're going to be using here pretty soon. And their Damascus is, from what I was told at the show, is 9CR and 440 stainless. Really cool and very well done. Quickly before I forget, I want to show you guys that other pattern on another blade from Kansept, part of their budget line. So here is the Shard, part of the Tenable lineup. Again, the little brother of Kansept Knives, but here's that other pattern I was talking about. And I hope they use this pattern more on upcoming models. I just think it looks a lot better, and it shifts and dances more in the light. But as you guys can see here, the comparison, big difference. However, they're both great patterns. And getting back to the CRU, we have a full flat grind here. Very sharp. Here is the designer's logo. Now, I'm not too familiar with this designer, but I'll put him up on screen. And if I can find his Instagram account, I will put it down below. But it is tastefully done. Let's get to the action on this thing. The blade is riding on bearings, so it is very smooth. However, as you guys can see, the flipper tab is pretty equal to the center of the pivot, which usually means it's not going to be the greatest at being a flipper. However, for some reason, this knife is really snappy, even though it has a low flipper point, if that makes any sense. But the action on it is really smooth. So even with my fingers on the frame lock here, you can see that this thing flips out very well. Very snappy action, but it's got a very glass smooth close. It's really hard to explain on camera, but if you get a chance to get this thing in hand, I highly recommend it because it's very unique. It's a different kind of action, at least in my experience. Even if I try to fail this thing, and I'm keeping my fingers off of the frame lock on this flip, but even if I try really hard to fail it, it will not fail. Again, really surprised with that low. I know there's a term for it. It's like a counterpoint with the pivot and the flipper tab. I'm sure Neves Knives knows about it, but if you guys know, let me know down below if you guys know what I'm talking about. But again, even with my fingers on the frame, this thing still fires out. So it's one of those knives you don't have to worry about the frame. You can just pick it up and flip it out. So, I mean, obviously, if you put a lot of pressure, obviously it's not going to open. Well, actually, there it did. But obviously, you can fail it if you put a lot of pressure on that frame. But yeah, if you just pick it up and grab it, flick it out, no problem at all. However, the only issue I've had, and I think Cole from Tri-State ADC, he's struggling with it too, but the front flipper tab here, the jimping is really, really well done. I call it the lighter method. So if you treat it like a lighter, you know, if you're gonna actuate the lighter where it spins. So that works really well. However, any other way is pretty difficult. So interesting design with this top flipper tab or the front flipper tab. It's really difficult any other way. So it's not the greatest flipper tab, but again, that lighter method works really, really well for me. And I have great access to that frame lock. They put bevels on both ends, the show side scale and the frame lock. So really, really good access. The only thing that kind of frightens me on this knife is, as you guys can see right there, it already bit me. But the action is really, really good. If it drop shuts on you, it could get your skin. But if you keep it at the right angle, your thumb, or it will hit your thumb instead of your skin. So that's one thing I learned. So that's why I'm just a little cautious with closing this thing. But it is nice that the flipper tab hits your thumb first, and then you can just kind of shake it shut. But it is drop shutty if you're confident enough that it's going to hit your thumbnail instead of the skin on your thumb. But the action is good. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. It's super, super smooth. Again, writing on bearings, very snappy. And you don't have to worry about your fingers being on that frame lock, since even applying a little bit of pressure will not affect it. So I love that the action is good. Even left-handed, it's really good. Again, you can have your thumb on that lock and it still fires right out. So I would say it's lefty friendly, other than the pocket clip is not reversible, as you guys can see right here. But overall, really, really good action. Now, when it comes to the ergos, since it has a very neutral design, super, super comfortable in hand. That pocket clip is not a hot spot. Yeah, just fits extremely well in hand. You can choke up on this front sharpening choil. I mean, the tip of the sharp edge, or the end of the edge, does touch your finger, so it is an option if you really want to get close to that cutting edge for some finer cuts. But just choking up right behind the flipper tab feels really, really good in hand. You're definitely locked in. There is no jimping, but this does not feel like it's going to go anywhere. So ergos are amazing on it, and the reverse grip on this thing is really good too. Just very, very well contoured. These scales are contoured. I forgot to mention that. Nicely beveled and rounded, as you guys can see there. So again, no hot spots. Feels smooth, no sharp edges. Really happy with this one, and this one surprised me. I don't know. I didn't see it at any of the blade shows. So this just kind of came out of the blue. No pun intended. They do have other flavors on the website, and I believe these are available on White Mountain Knives. So I will leave a link down below. Also, don't forget, if you guys do go to White Mountain Knives, you can get 10% off with my discount code Nathan's Knives. So you can save a few bucks. But really, really well executed by Kansept. Again, this one surprised me. Very smooth, and glad I was able to get this one in hand. This is a knife I would highly recommend to anybody, especially if you're looking for a classy, kind of a Sunday carry, or a fancy event, if you will. So that is the Kansept CRU. As always, thank you for watching. I really appreciate your support. And as always, I will see you on the next one.